And she hugged me and she clung onto me and was sobbing. And she said very quietly, and I will never forget this till the day I die. I get choked up even thinking about it. But she said to me, I don't remember the last time someone hugged me without wanting something in return.
You're listening to the Sue Podcast with your host, Ryan Keeney.
This is the place to hear from members of the Sault Ste. Marie community and beyond.
We're on a mission to give local voices a platform to share their stories and experiences.
Whether it's supporting small business, discussing local politics, or tracking real estate trends, find it all on the Sue Podcast.
My name is Shauna DiGasparro. I am the board chair here, but I've more importantly been a volunteer here for almost 9 years in the St. Vincent Place Food Bank. So I'll just give you a little idea of what our organization does. So as you might have seen outside, we have our men's transitional housing. So previously was an emergency shelter, and we have changed that to a transitional housing for men. We also have our thrift store, which is outside. So we accept community donations. We sell things in our thrift store for a very reasonable price, makes it accessible for a lot of low-income people, but it's also our really only source of income. We rely completely on community donations to offer our food services, and our thrift store is our big money raiser for that, in addition to our local fundraisers that we do as well. We offer a soup kitchen twice a week, so Wednesdays at 4:30 and Saturdays at 11:30. It's still takeout, a post-COVID result of that. We used to have eat in, but we still do takeout. So members of the community can come and get a hot meal twice a week. And we have community groups and local businesses who come in and provide and prepare those meals for them. We also run our food bank twice a week. So members of the community can come in and get a grocery order. Our eligibility is every 60 days. Just again, we rely on community donations, so that's what we can afford to support in the community. So they can get a food basket every 2 months. And we run it again twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We also offer a Lunches for Learning program through the school year. So what that program offers is a way for parents to get groceries for their kids' lunches that is a healthy lunch that they maybe couldn't otherwise afford, or they have other bills that make it difficult. And we provide either pickup here or delivery, which reduces the stigma. So we know a lot of times when kids are hungry at school, even if the school has a program, sometimes the children don't want to access it because there's stigma attached to it. So this way really removes all the stigma. The parents can come pick up, or we can deliver all the food they need to make healthy lunches for the full week coming up. We've been running it a number of years, and between 200 and 250 kids every year that we're able to support through the school year. Again, we rely on community donations for this. So we have a lot of really great community members and volunteers who help support this program as well. I'll walk you through kind of our food area here. This is where really when we bring in donations, they kind of sit here to get accounted for. So we have staff here. So this is kind of our holding area because we inventory all of our food. When it comes in, and we check for expiry dates and stuff like that as well, and make sure there's nothing open. You'd be surprised sometimes, people are incredibly generous, but we sometimes get some, open items, which we obviously can't take, or if they're expired. Right. Sometimes we get baking supplies or odds and ends. So we have a team of people who actually will put these ingredients together to make a bag, which will be a meal for somebody in addition to their food bank items. We'll hopefully see some later, but it's usually soups or Rice Krispie squares or taco kits. So some of these things that don't really fit in our standard food bank items, we have a team of volunteers who come in and really kind of pre-package for us. So this is our food cupboard. You can see some of the shelves are getting a little bit empty.
It's very organized.
We have the most wonderful volunteers that take care of all of this stuff and makes our life easy. So when those donations come from the staging area, they get moved into here, organized. We have some sheets there, so it makes it easy for people like me who don't work in here all the time to be able to put the baskets together. But we're gearing up for our Big Blue food drive coming up at the end of this month. So you can see some of our shelves are getting a little bit empty. So we're really excited to fill them up with that. So here are some of the prepackaged meals we're able to offer with some of the those mixed things we get. So we have soups, that our volunteers put together. So it's just, instead of giving some just cans of food, it's something that they can actually make a meal. Usually we have some desserts. So here's one to make bran muffins. So they always put a little recipe with it and all the ingredients that they would need. So it's a really great addition that we are able to offer. We have over 200 volunteers that help support all of these great, wonderful things that we do for the community. This takes a lot of work to get everything put together, including our soup kitchen teams, our food bank teams, our lunches for learning teams. So we have we have drivers. It takes a lot of people to make all of this magic happen.
Yeah, I bet.
This is where our soup kitchen teams will utilize our kitchen, and they will make 150 to 170 usually takeout meals that we cart them up through there out to the door, and we hand them out at the door. This is where our intake area. So when clients come in to access our food bank, we want people to feel comfortable and not judged when they come in to access food. But we do have some requirements, like every 60 days, they have to have ID for everyone in the household, just to make sure that the people who are accessing it are, using it appropriately.
We've seen like small groups of people who've been talked about in the media who have sort of taken advantage of that without having the requisite need. And then that does a disservice to the people who have legitimate
because
need.
It's taking away from the people who actually need it.
Right? So it's like, how do you monitor something like that? How do you prevent something?
When you go back to our source of income being community donations, we really have a responsibility to the people who donate their money to us to make sure that their donation is going to the people that it needs to. So we intake them here. We have some friendly faces who fairly painless questions we ask them. And then we have some volunteers who then will hand out the food packages. So we have everything pretty organized here. There have been days, I'll tell you, that I've been here that we have used every one of these, gotten rid of every single one of these baskets through the night.
Gosh.
So a single person will get one of these baskets. And then we have these other add-on baskets. So depending on the number of people in the family. So one person will get this. If there's two people in the family, they'll get this and this. And then it's an escalating number. So we have, over here, I don't know if they're actually out yet. We have people who come in and set all this up for us. So we have, like, if you have a 6-person family, they would get one of these plus these 2 boxes. So it's scaled that way. I see we've got some donations of corn here. So we have a lot of local farmers who will donate. And we have some of our partners at Harvest Algoma that will, they have, a food recovery program, that things that are getting close to their date, we get that produce donated as well. So in addition to these, we have these tables set up. So there's margarine, bread, potatoes, any produce that we have. So the perishables are in addition to that. I see now we have some dog and cat food here, which is great. We have a lot of our clients looking for that. And we also have our period pantry. So that's a fairly new program we spearheaded a couple of years ago to provide menstrual items to people who need them free of charge. So that program's available to anybody, even if they're not coming to use the food bank. As long as they come in during their hours, they can get free period supplies as well.
In the years that you've been doing this, have you seen an increase in the amount of people that are relying on?
Absolutely. At least doubled. Probably more than that some days. The number of children that we've recorded stats for through our food bank has increased over 200% in the last 2 years. We're seeing a different demographic of clients who need to use our food bank. So in addition to the number of people, it's more larger families, where we used to, when I started here, we used to see mostly singles, sometimes couples, folks who are on ODSP, which doesn't pay a lot. Right. So accessing the food bank. And now we're seeing a lot more working families, 2-parent families with kids who are coming in and having to access the food bank as well.
Is there a way for small businesses in the community to donate food or make a monetary donation? Is there, are there currently businesses that have a relationship with the organization?
Absolutely. So there's many ways businesses can help support. And that's a lot of, besides our community, member donations, residents who live within the community and outlying communities. We do get a lot of support from businesses. Our Lunches for Learning program has really been almost entirely supported by local businesses who, that is something that they like and it's attractive, a good way for them to spend their donor dollars. So we have a lot of businesses who support that program specifically, but really all of our services. We have some businesses who like to do a little bit more. So I'll speak to the business where I work. Yep. We do food drives occasionally. They do monetary donations. They help sponsor some of our fundraising events, like our Coldest Night Walk. We usually get corporate sponsors for that. But we also like to give back in more than money. So where I work, we also have a soup kitchen team. Yep. So we have volunteers who get together. Our business supports the base costs for this, but we have a group of volunteers who actually come in here and make the lunches. So we have to do the groceries, make the lunches, and it's a great, obviously great for the community to be able to do that. But from a corporate business perspective, it's a great way to get your team together to do something really good for the community. So really I work for McDougall Energy, and they're a huge supporter, of course, of the business that we do here. But it's really nice to have that team to go in. So we've been doing it for, I think we're in our moving into our sixth consecutive year. So we've actually expanded, and it's a pretty neat thing that we've brought in all of our VPs to come and do a dinner once a year. So we have, just our regular volunteers, whoever is available to come in for our employee pool here in Sault Ste. Marie that come and put together the lunch. But it's been really nice to kind of bring that in and have that support from a corporate level. So there's lots of different ways that businesses can help. Our period pantry has been a great one too. A lot of businesses, do that as a fundraiser too, is have people just bring in period supplies and bring that. And we have some other people, as we talked about before, there's a lot of kind of packaging and stuff that has to do, a lot of background work. So we've also had some businesses who want to come in and do that, where they'll put a team together and come in, package coffee and creamers and stuff for the groups. I enjoy being a part of this organization from the board perspective, but my passion is really being a volunteer here as well. I generally work the front line, so I can, have that direct relationship with the clients who come in, and that's what keeps all of us volunteers coming here. Well, we have people who are brought to tears by the services. So I'm not a hugger. Well, I am now, and that's where I'm getting to. I was never really a hugger. And I was here one night. It was one of our evening shifts. So it was getting pretty late, and a lady came in, and she was not in a really good place. We weren't too busy that night. I had the opportunity to sit and talk to her. She was waiting for a bed and detox, wasn't sure she was going to make it, to get to detox and then to treatment. And she was just sobbing. And we talked for a bit, and I didn't know what else to do. And I was like, a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I said, do you want a hug? And she hugged me, and she clung onto me and was sobbing. And she said very quietly, and I will never forget this till the day I die. I get choked up even thinking about it. But she said to me, I don't remember the last time someone hugged me without wanting something in return.
Oh, wow.
From me. And that was so impactful for me as a woman and as a human being to think that, you don't have anybody in your life to give you a hug.
It's a very isolating
without wanting something in return. Yeah. So I'm now a hugger. And I will often, I've been here for long enough. We have some of the same clients I've been serving here for, almost 9 years. And you get to be a little bit intuitive about how people might be feeling when they come in, and they talk to us, right? So we know what they're going through, and I'm always, trying to offer up the hug if they need it. And what my experience has been is that there have been times where somebody's standing in front of you and seems like they're okay, and as soon as you have that touch and that human emotion of somebody to even ask you if you want a hug, often I'm then the one crying as well, because it's not just about food here. Yes, we're providing a food service, but it's about so much more than that. It's about, compassion and treating people like human beings and having a safe, comfortable place for people to come when they're in need, and have a person there that's receptive to try to meet their emotional need as well at the time. We had a client come in one night a couple of years ago. It was winter time. she had just sandals on, no socks, no jacket. So we, try to keep some extra things here. So she always came in for food bank, but, we had some coats and some boots and stuff that we were able to help. So as we were helping her, find some winter clothing, we got to chatting. And she shared with me a little bit of her story. So she was currently living in her vehicle in the middle of winter here in Sault Ste. Marie. So it is pretty cold, and had no outside clothing items. And she had left an abusive relationship and came to Sault Ste. Marie with the clothes on her back. Had previously worked a pretty good job and found herself here with nothing, and had some, trauma and PTSD from her previous experiences, which kind of led her to a place where, not really a place to be employable. But I like to talk about her story because as I tried to help her navigate advocating for herself, it really was demonstrative of some of the bureaucratic red tape that can come with somebody who's in that position. So she had no income, living in her car, but because she had a vehicle and had some pension, she wasn't eligible to collect social assistance. And what happened is she ended up in just this cycle of bureaucratic red tape, is that she couldn't get OW because she had some assets and didn't have an address. But she couldn't rent an apartment without having a source of income. So she just ended up in this circle of bureaucracy and gave up. And she gave up on herself, and she gave up trying to advocate for herself. So she and I kind of developed a relationship. And, I, outside of what I do at St. Vincent Place, this is not really what we do here, but, as a human being, sometimes you just meet somebody and as a human want to do a little bit extra for them. So I had actually offered to go with her to do some appointments, and I sat and had some, pretty good conversations with her. She told me her story, and she has been very vocal about this lately, and it's a little bit embarrassing to me because I don't like to see it that way, but I think it pulls this whole story together. But she has said very vocally that I saved her life because she had given up on herself. So I didn't have to go to the appointment with her. She ended up being able to do it herself. What I was able to give her through our conversations, and it's not just me, we have a whole team of people who do this here, is that I was able to give her some confidence and pride and tell her that she was worthwhile, which led her to be able to go and, advocate for herself. And she ended up getting a place. So she still stops in here every once in a while to see me and give me a hug and, let me know how she's doing. But it's something like that, whether you talk about fate or kismet, that, sometimes some people walk in here at the right time and find the right people that can help with more than just the food.
Yeah. Seems like raw human compassion in this case actually prevented another case of homelessness. You prevented her from becoming somebody who would be suffering so much more than she already was, right? Like, she came to you in some pretty dire circumstances, and rather than those circumstances becoming even worse, which is a distinct possibility, just a little bit of raw human compassion actually was able to give her the push that she needed.
Some people, I find, when they've lost their self-worth, they also at the same time lose their advocacy for themselves. If they don't feel like they deserve any better than where they are at the time, they don't go out and seek out the resources that could help them because they don't feel like they're deserving. And as a community, that's our community problem, because we've seen, and it's not just local to Sault Ste. Marie, but we see how a lot of people who are struggling in our community are treated by the general public, how they're talked about on social media, how they're looked upon. So this is something I really take a lot of pride in here, is that it doesn't matter who walks in the door here, they're treated like a human being, and they're treated with respect and dignity.
If somebody wanted to donate to the facility, how would they go about doing that? Is there like a website?
You can donate on our website at Vincent Place, SSM, thrift.ca, and there is a donate now button on there that you can make that donation. If it's a monetary donation, that's great as well, but we always also take food, or if you have friends or organization that wants to put together a little food drive, our marketing coordinator, Sarah McCleary, marketing manager, Sarah McCleary is great at providing information if somebody wants to do a little food drive as well. So especially when it comes to when we're thinking about homelessness specifically in the community, I think we've all, if you live in Sault Ste. Marie, you've experienced seeing somebody who visually appears to be homeless. You have somebody who's carrying their life on their back. We see people in tents. Something that I experience here and have people who will talk to me about it is we have a lot of people who I like to term, I don't know if it's a typical term, but the hidden homeless, where you have people who don't really have a stable place to stay, but they're not yet at that point where they are actually on the street homeless. So we have a lot of people who live in their vehicles. I think it's probably more than even I know here, because we don't have any stats on that. It's just when people have shared that with me. But there are quite a few people who come and use our food bank who are living in their car. They're fortunate they have a car to live in, because if they weren't, then they would be homeless. We have people who, are staying with friends, staying with family. We have one family, they come in regularly. It's a husband and wife with some kids, and they could not find an apartment. It's hard to get first and last, but it's also hard to get your foot in the door to even get an application for an apartment. And they had to go live with a family member, but what if they didn't have a family member to go live with? Our shelter system is really set up for single people. What about families and couples? We've had a number of people who I know stay on the street instead of using the shelter system because they are a couple. They don't want to leave their partner. Especially people who are incredibly marginalized and vulnerable, it's easy, to kind of be that armchair quarterback and said, well, they should just split up and one stays at the men's shelter and one stays at the women's shelter. But it's not always that easy when they have that safety net and connection, and that's their only family. And it's the same with pets. We have a lot of people who come in who won't use the shelter system because they have a pet and they won't leave their pet behind. And again, that sounds like the simple solution would be, oh, well, leave your pet behind or give away your pet because your safety is more important, or your housing is more important. But understanding the people that sometimes their pet, I've had people who tell me their pet has saved their life, and sometimes that's the only, I like to say person, but it's a pet, but it's the only thing in their life that maybe loves them without judgment and has been with them through all of their tribulations. So it's not quite as simple and cut and dry that it may seem from the outside to just leave your partner or your pet behind to go use the shelter system. So then where do these people go? Right? They stay in abandoned houses and the alleyways in the summer, but winter's coming. So where are they going to go in the winter? So there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot more of that hidden homeless where people are just kind of just getting by, they're couch surfing, they're staying with families, but that's not sustainable. What happens if that breaks? I worry that we don't have the infrastructure in place as a community to support all of the need that we have.
If you're in such circumstances, you might even be more vulnerable to being a victim of crime, right? Like if you're part of the invisible homeless community, let's say, like you were saying, you're couch surfing, you're sleeping in your car, you're in an environment where you're susceptible.
That is a really great point and very intuitive, because that really does happen. I have heard many stories, and so we think about somebody on, who is low income, on disability, or a minimum wage earner. Apartments are really expensive, which forces people to maybe get a roommate, and you maybe don't. You might have a roommate that might rob you or steal from you, and we do hear that quite a bit from some of our clients who are coming in and saying, oh, my roommate robbed me last night, or because they can't afford to live alone. And then you have a roommate that you think is good, but then they bring in friends and you can't really control that. So that is a reality, is that the people who are low income are also vulnerable to getting taken advantage of and also robbed. It's a really regular story that we hear. What can anyone do? Right? It's such a it's happened so frequently that, you know, and it's easy to say, well, make better choices, get better friends. But sometimes if that's actually, I know of someone in particular who is staying at the shelter right now because that was their situation. They had an apartment with a roommate and they continued to get robbed, and, you know, ended up having to start utilizing the shelter system because of that environment that they had been living in. So hopefully they can, you know, transition into a new place, but it's really kind of that cycle that happens. Unfortunately, and I don't want to specify women because it's not just women, it's also vulnerable men and teens. What often happens is they will end up staying in an unsafe environment because that's the only place they have. So if their choice is homelessness or staying in an unsafe environment, we have a lot of women and also some men and young people who don't have any other choice but to stay in an unsafe environment or become homeless. And that's the one that's a little bit harder, I think, to manage, because the longer they stay in that situation, the more vulnerable they become. And I think it's harder then for them to advocate for themselves and then find a way out.
Are there individuals currently now temporarily living within your space, and how does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a 13-bed transitional housing unit upstairs. We used to have a few more beds when it was an emergency shelter, but now we have all of the men have the ability to have a single room. So it's really a bridge between an emergency shelter and independent in their own apartment. So we have a number of men live here full time. This is their home. And we, you know, they're provided 2 meals a day every day, and in a safe environment as well. So since we moved to the transitional model, it's not staffed. So we have a really good interview process for people who want to have accommodations here, because we have a really great group of people. So the biggest thing, you know, the biggest risk always with that is safety. You know, you want to make sure that if you have people coming in and living here, that it's a safe place for them. And, you know, since we started this model, it's been wonderful. We have a lot of the men have been living here for, you know, an extended time, and it's able to, you know, bring in any services that they need, and they have a safe place to be when they're here.
When I think about places like Women in Crisis, where
the circumstances that give rise to why a woman would need to go to Women in Crisis, those circumstances seem obvious to most people.
Yes.
Well, clearly there was this very serious situation where she's escaping
domestic violence,
what have you. But I think what's less clear to me, and might be less clear to a lot of people, is generally what are the circumstances where, you know, a male client is coming.
It's not black and white, but, you know, off the top of my head, we think about things like, you know, maybe it was a breakup.
Yeah.
Still, men break up too.
Yeah.
You know, and could be maybe their roommate situation wasn't working out. People have mental health and substance abuse issues that may make it difficult, not only from a financial perspective to get back to independent living in their own apartment, but also potentially emotional and psychological issues as well, that it's lonely then to be alone, especially if you've potentially left a previous lifestyle, that all of your friends are family, and some people don't have family.
Right.
So I think that maybe for some people, they just, you know, they were in between places and they come here, and it's a nice, safe place where they can stay. We recently had, I don't know if I should talk about this or not, but I'm going to.
Okay.
He's not here anymore to tell me that I can't say it, but I think he'd be okay with it. So we had a gentleman who was living in our residence upstairs. And he was a wonderful man and became a friend to many of us here. He would come and help out. He would set up our kitchen in anticipation for the soup kitchen teams to come in. He would help our executive director, Nat, to go do our grocery runs. He would help for lunches for learning. He was always around. I don't know what his story was. Super guy. I know he, you know, was from Southern Ontario, had a great job earlier before he got here. We don't ask those questions, you know, kind of what brought them here, obviously, because people will share it if it comes to them. And a while back, this gentleman was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So as an organization, you know, we talked about what can we do to help him go home and visit his family, or does he want to be here, go be back to where he's from and where his family is. facilitated some visits there, but he chose to stay here. And he lived his last days between our transitional housing shelter until he went to Arch. And his family was here. His family was our volunteers who are here. We had some of our volunteers rotated shifts to make sure he wasn't alone when he went to Arch until he passed. So it's just a testament to me. We've lost several of our guys who live here of what would be deemed as natural causes, as opposed to, say, we hear in the media a lot about social media about ODs. So these are people who really find a place here with a family that maybe they don't have outside of that, because it would maybe be a lonely existence. They wouldn't have anybody else. So I think that might not be what brings them here, but that might be the draw, you know, once they are here and having that kind of communal environment, and may, you know, in fact, kind of keep them on the straight and narrow, right? When they have people to be accountable for, you know, they've got their buddies there, and, you know, who knows if their path would be different if they were, you know, back home, you know, or living independently on their own without that, you know, anybody to kind of keep them in check.
I was down and out at one time there. I did hit rock bottom. And then I came here, I forget, and then I stayed here for about 2.5 years upstairs. Then I moved on to Albert Street, and then Rodney, the cook, he said there was a room available at his apartment. So I talked to the landlord, and then ever since then, I've been Rodney's neighbor for the last 6-7 years now, so. And he's the cook here, Rodney, so. But he got me the place, so. And there was a couple times that I fell off the, you know. I was a user at one time, you know what I mean? And I'm on methadone, you know what I mean? So, been on that for about 12 years now, so.
And what is that?
It's just don't crave the drug, you know what I mean? It just breaks the monotony of going out there to use it. But I had a couple times I did fall off the wagon there, you know, while I was working here.
Fall off the wagon.
Yeah, so I went back to cocaine, the choice of my drug. So I don't know if you guys can edit that out or whatever, but
we can edit anything.
No, I'm being honest with you. You guys want the truth from me, so I'm going to tell you the truth.
And
I got nothing to hide.
and how were you sort of introduced to that life, to that lifestyle? What was going on?
Oh, it was, I don't know. Things turned to friends. You know what I mean? Oh, try this, Chris. Well, you know, try this there. So I tried it, and, you know, I enjoyed it, but you'll never get that first high again, you know what I mean? Because they say you're chasing the dragon, you know what I mean? You'll never get that first high again, you know what I mean?
And how long ago was that first
Oh,
high?
Christ, that was a few years ago. First I started on the opiates. I started with perks, you know what I mean? Then they got into the oxys, you know what I mean? Then I got into the oxys and snorted them a lot, and then that was pretty much it. Then after they cut them oxys out and they went to that, you know, the plastic ones there, and then I pretty much quit after that. And that's when I went on the methadone and been on that since for then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got my carries. I had my carries for the last I think 4 years now.
Carries?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You get every week. You don't have to go there. You have to go there every day to get your drink, and I didn't like that. And then you got to stay sober for 3 or 4 months. No drugs in your system. And then you get one carry, and then you work on the next one. Every month you get a carry. or every week I think it is. You get one. So now I'm up to I get 2 weeks. So I I don't have to go there until every second Friday.
Go there.
At OTSC on Queen Street.
OTSE?
Yeah, it's.
And what is that?
It's the I guess for the methadone. I guess I don't know.
Okay, that's where you would retrieve your methadone.
Yeah.
And that helps with the recovery.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It seems like from your story that this sort of the lifestyle for a while, before hitting rock bottom, as you say, it started almost as sort of like a social thing, like it's friends at a party saying,
exactly.
Hey, try
you know
this.
What I mean?
This is fun. This is great. It didn't seem like this was something that was sort of just presented the sort of danger that you
exactly
necessarily perceived it to be at the time. It just seemed like something fun, right? Like, and then just one thing after another, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And that was, you said that started a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 53.
53. So I'm 36 as we speak.
Okay.
And I've definitely been to my fair share of parties, and I've seen the stuff that you were talking about. Where you don't really think about where you go after that. But,
yes.
If you don't mind me asking, you a phrase you mentioned to me a few moments ago was you felt like you had hit rock bottom, was the word that you used.
Yes.
Can you tell me what rock bottom looked like? And I know that's a really sensitive question.
But I don't know. It's just like down and out. You know what I mean? You can just. Like I had no one, you know what I mean?
Were you experiencing?
Well, after my money was gone, you know what I mean? Friends were gone, you know what I mean? But more or less I had to buy my friends, you know what I mean? After the money was gone, they were gone, you know what I mean?
When you say you had to buy your friends, what do you mean by that?
Well, I was supplying them with all the stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, so... Back in the day when I was doing it, you know what I mean?
You went from being a user to a dealer.
No, I know I was no dealer. I just bought everything for everyone, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was sorry, when you said supplying, I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And at the time when you're experiencing that, you said the money and the friends and all of that went out the door. Were you experiencing homelessness at that time?
Yeah, at the time, yeah. And then I went to my brother's, and then I stayed with my brothers for a long time.
You stayed with your brother?
Yeah, he's deceased now, but stayed with him for a lot of years. Stayed on his couch. He only had a one-bedroom apartment, you know what I mean? Stayed on his couch there. But now I got my own apartment, and I'm happy, you know.
And that's through St. Vincent Place?
Eh?
Is that here or somewhere else?
No, it's somewhere else on Albert Street there.
Right.
Yeah. The people that come to the door, they all know me because, I walk the street of their beat, you know what I mean? And they all ask me for cigarettes, you know what I mean? I was, I had to do what they were doing, you know what I mean? I feel what they're doing, you know what I mean? But if I can try helping them, I would try, but I really can't, you know what I mean? Because I don't have the, capability to do that, you know what I mean? I can only give them my word, you know what I mean?
How did you come to learn of St. Vincent Place?
Oh, I just heard about it there, and then me and my brother actually had to come here because he had issues over at his apartment there, and then we came here, and then he left. He went back to his apartment, which I stayed, and then ever since then I asked Nat there if there's any volunteer that can help. And then after a while I left, and then I volunteered here. Started working in the thrift store, being security, and then Nat asked me, he goes, Chris, I said, I think we'd like to put you on the payroll. I said, that'd be great. I said, it'll get me off OW, you know what I mean? So, which I was on OW, and then I got off OW because of that. So he paid me to be the security guard, and then I came down here, and after COVID started, they wanted a doorman because they were paying Norpro to pay Norpro to watch the door. So, and then I took over Norpro's thing, and so I took over that, and now it's been nothing but great. They all wonder, when Jody's working there, where's Chris? Where's Chris? Where is he? But the community likes me, you know what I mean? And I like them, you know what I mean? So.
For sure, yeah.
And I get along with everyone that comes in the door, you know what I mean? No issues, you know what I mean?
And you still do that same thing
Yes,
today? Like
yeah,
the security
but
stuff,
Nat gave me 3 weeks off there, so
Yeah.
I come start back Monday on the 16th.
And what else do you do? Is that everything you do here? Or?
Oh no, I do all kinds of stuff, janitorial, do the Lunches for Learners program, which is starting this Monday.
Starting this Monday.
Yeah, and then I'm involved with that, and we get all the supplies. Me and Vic go out and get supplies. If not, Jody, I said, me and you will switch. I said, you'll go this day and you'll go that day, and then we go up to Harvest. We grab milk. So many times to go friggin' out there, oh, Shauna, we need another Narcan kit there. And there's one broad across the street, I can't mention her name, but we gave it to her, and the ambulance came, and she didn't want to go to the ambulance. Then she yells out, you wrote my buzz. Meanwhile, we just saved your life. Then when she came back, she apologized. She goes, oh, I'm really sorry. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. Well, I said, see? It's unbelievable what she did, though. You gotta feel sympathy for them. Other than that, it's been nothing but good news here, and nothing but excellent atmosphere here. It's awesome here.
Yeah. It seems like both,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the impact that St. Vincent Place has had on you, but also
It turned my life around, I'll tell you that much. And if it wasn't for these guys, I'd probably be in a box by now.
But likewise, the contribution that you've had for them, it's
Well, yes,
it's very
exactly.
much in both directions.
Yep.
Right, and based on
Nothing but good gratitude I gotta say about this place. Nothing but good gratitude.
This part of the interview is just audio only. Of course, for our viewers can understand to protect the privacy and confidentiality of some of the clients that rely on St. Vincent Place. I'm going to use a pseudonym for the woman that I'm interviewing. I'm going to call her Sarah. That's not her real name. And Sarah is going to tell us about her experience here. But you know what? I won't speak for her. I'll just ask questions. So Sarah, it's great to sit down with you, and I'm really grateful that you agreed to talk to us. I really think that it'll help people in the community understand the good work that is done here. And
oh yes,
yeah, and you know, to tell us anything that you want to talk to us about.
it is just an amazing place to come. That's, how do you explain that? Like, I mean, there were times when I've had absolutely nothing, like in the last little while, and if it wasn't for St. Vincent's Place, I would not be alive.
You would not be alive.
I would not be alive, no.
That's a pretty significant thing to say. What do you mean by that?
Because I had gotten sick because my bills are way too high and I don't get enough money to live on. And neither does my roommate. We have to share things in order to survive. And he's out there right now. He's too scared to come in, but it's been rough. It's been really rough. And if it wasn't for St. Vincent's, I wouldn't be alive. They're what's feeding me. You know, it's very, very simple to say. They're feeding me.
And how many other people do you often see who are in the same situation?
I've actually got a few friends that come here now.
Yeah.
One's sitting out there right now, and he's just waiting for me to get over there so he can go and tease me. And he's here all the time as well.
Right. And when was the first time when you learned that this organization was here and you felt, I need some help, I need support, I need to come to a place like this? When was that?
Oh, it's got to be about a year now.
It's been about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what was life like before that, leading up to that, and then afterwards?
My life hasn't been good for about 4 or 5 years now.
For about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And I'm having a lot of trouble with my landlord, and like he's not doing anything, and I have to put the money out to fix this and fix that. And for a while there, we had no heat in the house.
There was no heat.
Yeah. And there was also no hot water.
And your landlord just...
Yeah, I'm taking him to court right now because I went to landlord and tenancy and they suggest that's the best thing to do. And so far, I've been there twice to court and he has not shown up. So according to them, I'm winning, hands down. But in the meantime, I started to come here and it's awesome. I don't know how to describe it. They're wonderful people and they saved my life. How else am I supposed to explain that? I can't explain it any better than that. It's as simple as that.
It is as simple as that. So it sounds like the neglect and incompetence of a bad landlord.
Oh, that's not even the word for it.
That's not even the word for it, okay.
No. My landlord is the worst of the bunch. I'm sorry to say, but, you know, when you own something and you rent it out, you've got to look after it. And that's the law. And he doesn't care. He was at the house the other day. I shouldn't even say this. And he was mowing my lawn because my lawnmower broke. And I had no way of doing my lawn. So he come over. And he was doing it. And he said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he cursed and swore. I said, "Excuse me, I live here. You got my rent, didn't you?" "Yeah." Real snotty like. I said, "Okay, then leave. I don't care if you get that done. I've got people around me that'll help me do it. Not a problem." So he took his lawnmower and he was driving it and he was like pushing it and he pushed it towards me and I got a good bruise here. And the bone itself is very sore. It's not broke, but it's very sore. And my roommate was not outside to see it, so it's my word against his. So that's how nice of a guy he is. He didn't care. It still doesn't. As I told him to get off the property, I will see you in court. Very simple.
I'm going to just go ahead and assume that there's almost no point in even trying to tell the police about something like that, because what are they going to do? Are they even going to care?
No.
Right?
No. They don't care. Because if they did, they'd do something about it. And that's what the Landlord and Tenant Act asked me. And I said, "No, I did not inform the police because they don't do anything." And she said, "Well, I think you better do it anyways, just to be on the safe side." I said, "Okay." So maybe I will give in and just call them. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to live today. It is. If it wasn't for St. Vincent's, I wouldn't be eating.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the bare facts.
From what I learned earlier today, there's been basically a doubling in the number of people who've needed to rely on food banks, not just in Sault Ste. Marie, but across Canada over the last few years, over the last 5 to 10 years. I don't know how people are going to get through it or how long this type of situation in Canada is going to last, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
Know. I don't understand how anybody is going to survive later on.
Right.
I don't. Because I'm having trouble right now. I've lost weight. It's like, oh my goodness. You know.
It seems like from what you've told me, and again, we haven't been talking for very long, but from what you've told me, it seems like a lot of the circumstances you're facing are largely no fault of your own. It's not your fault that you have a landlord who seems like a very terrible person and then on top of that, the doubling of everything in the country, from food to gas and everything in between.
Yeah.
So these are things that are happening to you, not happening because of you.
That's right.
And it's sort of like, and I imagine like you were employed and everything before.
Years ago, yeah, I'm retired
And
now.
now you're retired. Yeah. And what if you mind me asking, what were you employed as?
I was a chef.
You were a chef. Okay.
I worked at several places. I worked at McDonald's. My favorite was the KFC. I worked there, and I worked at Arby's. Oh my goodness, yes. And I've cleaned places as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you worked.
I don't like dirt. It just drives me crazy. And that's why I'm doing my best to get out from where I am.
Right. Well, you worked your whole life, and like this is sort of the thing.
I also raised 4 kids on my own because the husband died.
Right.
So, yeah, it's rough.
Is there anything else you'd want to say to the audience about anything, really? It doesn't have to be about what we've already talked about, or it can be if you want, but...
I just would like to say that I think everyone should appreciate Vincent's Place because it is fantastic. There are no words to even describe it. The people that serve you are awesome. Like, I mean, that guy that was here. Chris, right. He was Bruce's friend, okay? He still is. But I mean, that's how I got to meet him. And he's an awesome guy. And then there's another one. His name is Jody. And I'm crazy about him. Like, I mean, and I won't hide it. I love the guy all to pieces. And it's like, oh my gosh, you know? And everybody is so kind and so helpful. They're fantastic. And I don't like the situation I'm in, but I'm really glad that I can come here and get the help that I need. Very simple. Oh, I'm going to start crying.
I really appreciate you sharing all this stuff with us. Obviously, it's much of what you told us it's very personal. It's very sensitive. It also deals with very difficult situations that you've been placed in. And
yes,
I think if any good can come out of it, maybe somebody out there will hear what you've been through. Will understand that you certainly don't deserve to be going through any of this. And if to the extent that they can help, if the community can keep doing what they're doing, which is by providing food to places like this and providing monetary donations on the St. Vincent Place website, hopefully now they can understand the real people that are being helped in extraordinary ways because of their efforts. So, at least that's something that can hopefully come out.
What else do I have to look forward to? Like... I'll be fine. It's an awesome place to be. Awesome people. I don't know how else to describe it.
There's no other way to describe it.
That's right.
Do you want to end it there?